23 seconds.
Okay, no, I didn't see it start. Oh, yep, started recording. We'll leave it like that to remind ourselves.
Okay, so started recording, so we'll call this meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. So I've given you the minutes from last time. If you want to take a moment to look them over.
Oh, yesterday.
I know.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, was it? Oh, okay.
Oh, I forgot my green energy time.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have them?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, no, I have one.
Yeah, oh, just.
I subscribe. That's a,
Oh, good for you. They need people to subscribe as opposed to all the free ones they had.
And I did make contact with the person.
flood the town.
Say again.
Flood the town with them.
Missing, so I'm just getting attendance here. So did Marta say she wasn't coming?
No.
So she might show up. Wendell told me he wasn't coming and he's an alternate, so maybe it doesn't matter as much. Anybody else? And Charlie's no longer on the committee this year, so. Okay, got the attendance. And actually, what did we say? We were supposed to say, if they were excused or not excused?
Just absent or excused.
Okay, so. And who gets to do the excusing? Only you?
Well,
The reason I ask is because my father told me he wasn't coming. Is that excused? That counts as excused.
As long as he doesn't try to log in.
No, he's on the road. I don't think he can.
protocol would be the secretary.
That's what I thought. So we'll just call him absent.
You're the secretary, so you're.
Close enough to be,
Close.
okay. Right.
So are there any comments? There's some things I'd like to share about this, but are there any corrections to the minutes?
Did you change anything from what I wrote? Because then I can move to, okay.
Looks fine to me.
Okay.
Which raises the question. Previously, you would send it to me.
Yes.
I would kind of massage it, edit it, and then send it to Elisa.
Got it. I'll do that.
This time,
I copied Elisa, right? And
Right.
she's,
which is fine,
yeah,
but then
better.
I know.
Okay, I'll send it to you.
Okay. So unless there are any objections, then we'll just assume it's unanimous and passing. Okay, so a couple of things that were on here though. One was the green energy times, and I did make contact with the person I know. We are able to get some. And how receptive do you think people might be? Just
What was that?
how receptive will offices be to receive them? Do you want to get them and you distribute them?
If that's what it's gonna take.
Okay,
I mean,
I'll get them to you.
I think it's like, if you deliver it, they will eventually read it.
Okay.
Throw half a dozen copies in the break room back here.
I'll do that. All right.
Give it down to town office.
Yes. Yeah, you mentioned the town office, DPW, police station.
Yeah.
Library.
Yeah.
Basic places. Okay. All right. There were
Over the bathrooms.
there were a couple of other things that were on here.
So, but how is he getting them? So just so I write it down. So you're getting them, Joellen, and we'll give them
I'll
to,
get them.
Joellen will get them and make sure Gary gets them to distribute.
Are
Joellen.
they gonna be just distributed through the town offices?
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
You can probably, yeah, you can give them to Gary, you can just get them to the town office and we can get them to the appropriate places.
yeah.
Great.
And mail
Okay, that's
distribution.
easier. Okay, good.
I mean, we can definitely get one here, one police station. And if you want to get a few for the town office, we can have one floating around there and we can put a couple on that front desk. So
Wherever
in
people
the
might
town
sit.
can get-
Yeah, if people might just sit, then they should
Yes,
have
they
something to
are.
read.
A lot of times when people sit, have to wait.
Yeah.
for something.
Okay. If you get a couple for the town office, I'm sure one or two of them will disappear throughout the month anyway.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
that's the goal, is to make it disappear. Well,
Not in the
So-
fireplace.
it's not falling in.
Let's see, I said that I would contact the town manager and, Eric Russell about if they wanted an update on community power before we went to the select board. And you responded saying that you felt like you were in a good space with them. And I did contact Eric. They had the Viva coffee hour. And I did go there and I did see him there and I did approach him. Here's Martha.
Hi, Martha.
And so he said he would go on the website and, because that's where the plan is.
Hey there.
Um, And then I offered to get together with him. And-
With Eric.
Yes,
Well, and this gives us an opportunity to do a brief summary of things for Ed while he's here.
correct.
Okay. So we'll do that too.
I was just following up on some of the things that were. That came up last time. Okay. And the other thing is the draft minutes, I'll send out like 2 weeks. Well, we have to send them to town office within 5 business days, so I'll send it out then.
To the rest of us.
Yeah. to the
Okay.
rest of it.
Okay. And I will just send them to you when I finish.
Right. Anything else on minutes? Door stuff. Okay, updates. Ms. Kim.
Okay, I'll start with the community power plan, but I was also thinking you could give us an update on what we probably will have to bring to the select board for approvals. But before we do that, since Ed's here and probably, hasn't had too many updates, I'll do a general update of community power. Does that sound good? So the community power plan basically says we want to aggregate power and buy it for our town in an opt-out basis, meaning everybody's opted in unless they opt out. And we're working with the nonprofit community coalition, Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire, CPCNH, of which Jolyn and I are members, directors, and I'm actually treasurer this year. And so where we are in that group is we are evaluating RFPs, real proposals with real dollars, for the partner who will do the power procurement and an awful lot of our other services. It turns out with the number of, we have 19 members, towns involved at this point, and the amount of energy we're going to be selling when we first start, we're going to need to stand up a company with quite a few employees and then partners, mainly service partners, to do that wholesale procurement and things like that. So it's exciting. I'm on a committee that's reading all these RFPs and figuring out what's most interesting to us and how can we work with an organization that's really going to try to help Enfield's needs, but of course the other 19 communities too. So that's where we are. We're hoping that will be solved and we'll have somebody in place in September and they will start looking into buying power because it takes them months to get their portfolios together such that we could launch services and have in front of each of the towns a contract that says this is the offering, this is how much it costs. Do you want to sign on the bottom line? So that the goal for CPCNH is to have that available for the first towns who are interested in the spring of next year. It's a tough goal, and I wouldn't be wholly surprised if it slips a little bit, but in terms of that's the goal, and we're working very hard to get there. And it's pretty exciting. It's pretty fast paced and it's pretty darn exciting. It is, and I'm learning a lot. But one of the things that's happening in parallel, and one of the critical path items that we don't have as much control over, is that the New Hampshire PUC has to finish their rules making for exactly how these aggregation plans can work. And then we have to resubmit our plan. So we had our plan approved by the town, and it will have to have a few modifications to meet these rules that are just coming down. And that's where I'll hand it to you so you can tell us where we are on that side of the process.
Well, the rules, that's gonna be July 5th.
Okay, July, that's
when
soon.
the hearing
Yeah.
is.
And how long after that until we think we have what the towns need to go back to their select boards?
It's not clear.
Yeah, okay.
It's the PUC.
Yeah, PUC. So whether it's
They moved
really
their
done
own
on
dates.
July 5th, or that's the start of something that takes another X weeks.
We are aware though that there is a change in joint powers agreement that the town made with. There's a modification on that. It's relatively minor. Essentially, it says instead of waiting to make changes to the joint powers agreement once a year, we're saying, well, it's.
We might need flexibility.
frequently.
We might need more flexibility.
So
But if we
that's-
do make changes, all the boards have to agree, all of the towns have to agree. So we don't want to do that. But it also felt like we were limiting ourselves to say we could only do it once a year.
And then the other is that our plan, we had to make a little modification just to update it to say it has passed. And that, so that it was more current.
Yeah.
And that's the only change that's happened
Good.
to our,
Our own plan.
but the rules, we don't know what that's gonna be. So it makes sense to kind of wait till we get the results of next week's PUC hearing.
Okay, I'm trying to get this down.
We have a Community Power Coalition meeting the 21st, I believe. At which point, I think they'll give more direction.
Just had a question
Yes,
on what's being on the table of the PUC on July 5th. So what's the merit of
the rules of how it's going to actually work.
Yeah.
I think some of those rules are billing and how, like, that the PUC has to dictate that the utilities will supply data for the towns to be able to do their own procurement. So there's a lot of like little technical pieces.
Yeah.
That, the PUC would rather not spend time on. And the utilities, don't want to do either. So they push back a lot. But I think at this point, they can't push back anymore. They have to finish the rules so that we can implement them. Because we got the go ahead that, legislatively that we can do this in New Hampshire. And so the PUC had to write the rules and then the utilities have to follow them. So I suppose the utilities can say, okay, it's going to take me a year to implement that, whatever comes out of it. And yeah, we don't expect that. I mean, the good news is we have Cliff Below, who's working for well, he's on the board he's the chair of the board, CPCNH right now, and he's in the legislators' faces all the time.
I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Well, do you know Cliff at this point?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Did you know him before you were in Enfield?
Yes,
Okay. 'cause
I
he's
was
been in
actually
New Hampshire.
working with CPC.
Oh, you were? Oh, good.
Claremont. We
Ah.
weren't a joint city at the time, but I was,
Thinking about it.
we were working very close with Henry and
Okay.
I attended a
Why
lot of the
haven't you-
meetings.
Why do you think they didn't join? What do you think's Claremont's issues?
Claremont was, at the time, we decided to be, I'm gonna say on the sideline. I used the football
Watch,
analogy.
yeah.
We didn't want to be on the field playing yet, but we were
Looking.
very supportive.
Good.
We wrote letters, but we wanted to be kind of in that second tier.
Second tier. Okay, good.
We
Keep
had-
him in mind. Joe Ellen's on the
We
member.
had many
ops.
other issues to deal with.
Yeah, Joe Ellen's a member ops person, so she'll pick your brain later about who to talk to in Claremont. When we have something to show.
They're ready to go and they're interested and they're
Okay.
in favor and probably gonna be members of CPCNH, and it's,
But
They're
I
just-
certainly understand let's see how they shake out. 'Cause
Yeah.
the initial, it's
It's
like,
big.
it's all new.
Yeah, what we're doing is big and it's new. And so I get that. It's
well, and we didn't wanna, at that time, I didn't wanna be a member of the board and not being able to provide the support and things that we needed or being on, and I knew we didn't have the bandwidth to
Mhm.
do much.
Mhm.
And so it was more, let's play as large a supporting role as we can, and
Which is important.
Yes, it is. We need all
like I
of-
said, we signed on to everything, and I was talking to Henry Herndon a couple times a month at least. And
Yeah.
so we were very informed, we just weren't taking a seat at the table.
Someday.
May sound like an aside, and it sort of is, but it's somewhat related. And that is that, I was on the phone with Liberty Utilities for about 40 minutes today and did not get an answer. And they're gonna call me back tomorrow. The question was, what rate does a municipality get? Are they considered residential? Are they commercial?
Oh, no, oh, yeah, no.
You know, what's their rate?
You mean with CPCNH when we go forward
No.
or today?
Just today
Oh, well,
existing.
Just like Enfield could, or any other town could, or city, or business, is they can work with a third-party
Mhm.
service provider and try to negotiate a good rate, any old rate.
Oh, I know, but right now, we
Oh,
are
who?
Liberty.
Oh,
You-
in
Liberty
Enfield.
Customer, right, the town is.
Mm.
And so I wanted to know what rate we had. And part of this came up because of the solar thing that
Yeah.
Sure.
came up, and I didn't quite agree with some of the. So I questioned a few things, let's put it that way. So then I thought, well, go straight to the source, but they couldn't give me a straight answer. They couldn't figure out which rate. But then Charlie and I had a conversation, that's why I was a little late. And I found out which category we're in.
Okay,
So apparently it's G2.
yeah, it should be right on the bill. that
It
you're
is,
G2.
but
Yeah.
it's on their website. It's not listed as. But that's the question why I brought it up is considering you are government and you know, what do municipalities have a different rate than commercial?
I don't know what ours is here,
Mm.
I haven't looked, but in Claremont, we negotiated our own rate.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, you
'Cause I've
can if
got a
you're big
copy-
enough.
I've got a copy of the
Yeah.
latest bill.
I mean, like she said, we went to the market on our own and
Mm.
purchased power, and then we had to pay the transmission fees to
Okay.
whoever sourced it.
Was it
Alright.
Constellation? Do you know who you ended up going with at Claremont? Constellation's a big one around here. I see that in a lot of municipal and,
I know we used Andy Lafreniere as our
Okay.
broker.
Okay,
and we
that I
went
don't
to
know.
the market. and
great. Great, but not great, because generally that's who we're more competitive. CPCNH will be a little bit harder to beat that, I think, than, because generally that rate is, you gotta lock it in for a long time, or there's things about it that they can raise it when you're not looking, or, I don't know what all the issues are, but
It was,
it's hard to compare apples to apples.
yeah,
is
it
what
was
happens.
long-term locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were at 7 cents a kilowatt.
Yeah,
hour
that's
in
good.
Claremont.
Yep, no, that's good. No, it's not, but that's what we've seen, 7 and 8 cents, I think,
Mhm.
and that's only the energy,
Yes.
not the whole thing.
Not the
I know.
transmission.
But all of us were at 8 cents residential last year until the new latest rate hike,
Well,
which is
it went up
incredible.
to 11.
Yeah.
In February.
And then it went up again just now.
Well, it will. in
Well, I guess it
August
hasn't
1st.
quite yet.
August
Yeah.
1st.
Oh, is it August 1st? I didn't
Yeah.
actually have the date.
22. So
That's just
that's
energy.
still on, that's on the agenda later.
Yeah.
But anyway, so community power, so we will be coming to the select board, but we need to have clarity on what we're bringing to the board, because it makes more sense to come once.
Yeah.
With everything, rather than dribs and drabs.
And we still won't have a rate schedule or a contract at that point, or CPCNH won't, but it still gets us ready.
Which raises the question, I'm gonna raise it to you, Kim.
Mm.
Are we in Enfield going to determine our own categories?
That's gonna be, I think that we won't know the answer to how much diversity in categories we'll have till we get the partner in place who's pulling the programs together and buying for us. And they'll be able to tell us like, oh, with this amount of power that we're buying, we can have this much diversity. So I don't know if Enfield can have a different set than Lebanon and Hanover and Nashua, or whether we all start at the same rate, and then as we grow, we can diversify town by town. The programs, we can't start our own programs until we have funds. So the first year, we can't add to the programs that Liberties has, for New Hampshire Saves or something like that. But going forward, assuming that we can build the funds for programs, then we could have Enfield specific programs or Upper Valley specific programs or something like that. I think it's a couple of years down the line. Not too far though, it sounds like.
Okay, I just,
Yeah, don't know the answer to a lot of those things yet.
Because
What are the
it
rates being? We don't
kinda
know.
Came up.
Yeah.
The last meeting I was at, and I was like, really? All right, so that's where we are with community power. Anything else you want to add?
Or any questions? Any questions?
Okay, moving on, municipal buildings. Yeah, there were a couple of things in municipal buildings. One, I spoke with Charlie and reminded me that, Andrew Hatch, who is works for Resilience, something or other, I don't know. But anyway, that he had two contractors, and they gave bids to, Jim Taylor, and the decision was made to kind of wait, to do the insulation, because the intent was, if you do the insulation, you've got to get everybody out of the building.
Now, you're talking about DPW, this building's
Correct.
insulation, okay.
This building. So they're talking about waiting till there's a new roof, when the new roof goes on, for good insulation.
Do we have a new roof plan for this building, do you know?
Not immediate.
Not this year, not next year.
But in the future, when that happens, and Charlie was saying something about insulation in the walls. I don't know with it.
And in the meantime, it's 55, 60 degrees outside and the fan has been going on.
I know.
It stops for 7 minutes.
Or did you time it?
Yeah, it's like. The last meeting we had here, it never stopped.
Okay, so there's that, and then the other was, or a couple of other things. One, we had the energy audit done at the Union Street Fire Station, but that's a moot point
Yeah.
because now we have one on books. So
Yes.
you want to speak to that?
Yes.
Whoever?
I'll do a little speaking, but I was gonna say, then I'll give it to you so that I can type. So we had a meeting today. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago that I did not make. Sorry, team. I totally didn't have it on my calendar. I have no good excuse for that. But today's meeting was good. We had both the chief of police and fire, and we're talking about the spaces that they need. I think the good news is that there's a good working sort of document that shows interior space. So it's more on the interior space and how it's being used today. And so it was good feedback as to the kinds of things that we expect. And I brought up, let's think 50 years, what electric vehicles, so we're going to have vehicle chargers in these spaces, et cetera. And everybody agreed by 50 years from now, we better be all electric, pretty much all
I'd
electric.
like to see a video going here in about 10 minutes. Anyway, and I'd like to reiterate that current police station is inadequate, not because Enfield outgrew it. It's because the codes outgrew it.
Well, it's good. It's a good point because a couple of times we heard from fire and police that basically the codes change a lot.
Right.
And
they're gonna
so
continue to
like
change.
the evidence rooms and the sizes and how they have to be built out and armory and I mean, just all kinds of things. So it's pretty hard for us to predict those code changes in the next 50 years. So, but we talked about a little bit about where do we expect Enfield to be? Is it still gonna be all volunteer? You know, is it likely that we will have grown to a point that, you know, we won't, that we need to have more? And there's quite a few provisions in the building for that, as well as, and maybe you want to talk a little bit about what you think 50 years will look like. And how old will you be?
mean, there was a-
Dennis Kane.
I
running
was,
town.
I was watching a video, there's a station in southern New Hampshire, or northern Massachusetts. They just built a new public safety facility. They have 9,000 square feet unplanned for.
Ah, that much. Where?
I'll have to look it back up again.
Okay. But
It's
anyway,
either northern Massachusetts or southern New Hampshire. and
Yeah.
They've been in it, I think, a year, and they're already starting to move into the 9,000.
well, I was
Yeah.
glad to hear about a basement.
I was gonna say, it's just like a house. You build 9,000 extra square feet, you're gonna
You'll use
find something to put in there.
Well, but it's nice to have it to.
If
plan
you, what I'm really pushing on that type of thing is building it in a way where we can expand it as needed. So the bunk rooms, we don't need bunk rooms right now. We may build two, because we did learn during COVID, that's what we talked last time, that it would have been a good place to be able to shelter someone when their family has COVID or something, so we still have police force and people that could work. So we'll do that, but, you know, let's plan for that space, but not build it now, but have it ready to build, so we don't have to heat it, we don't have to maintain it, and we're not gonna turn it into an office or something, because that's what'll happen. But we need to have it ready. The main focus of what we've been working on is financing lately, or what I've been working on. Because we all know what interest rates are doing, what the
Mm.
financing market's
Scary.
doing, so when you're looking at financing $13 million, every percentage point means something. And so we did lock in the public safety building financing with Mascoma Bank at 3.1%,
Which is
Great.
fabulous.
which is great.
Yeah.
The bond bank was 3.6% if we would have went with that, so 0.5%'s $1 million over the length of the loan. So we did good there. I'm working with USDA right now, trying to lock down the Whitney Hall one. There's some provisions out there that we can't spend more, or we can't borrow more than $10 million in a year. So, so I'm working with USDA. I think late in the calendar year, we're gonna be able to lock the rate going into getting the loan in the early next year. But with that, the federal government interest rates are lagging about 0.5% behind the normal rate. So I'm hopeful we'll still be in the low to mid threes at that time frame to lock in Whitney. But
So you mentioned basement. I mean, the new site, it's easily done 12 to 15 feet from the road level and the land level right now. It's like, why would you just build it 3 stories? One under, one up.
that's what we're looking at. We definitely are looking at that. We got to look at
I mean,
cost
Access.
benefit.
there's 30 feet level shift from the corner.
But that also means elevator or something. So you have to
Yeah.
think of that extra expense.
Right, the hydraulic elevator's nothing.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
not
it's not
nothing. It's,
$300,000.
it's not nothing. It's not nothing at all compared to nice, yeah, I mean, you know, we're talking
Please
about
don't put any stairs going in.
no stairs going into the building. so
Yeah. I mean, you think we spent $25 million, whatever it was, on Mascoma High School.
And the only way.
I had excavators and trucks there for a year and a half. Got to walk up, what, 3 or 4 stairs to get in the building?
Yeah.
Why not just have a handicap ramp that goes?
But anyway, so,
Anyway,
so the basement
Minor
was a
details.
little bit of a new discussion that sounded like the right direction to be going.
Yeah, and there may be some cost savings there, which would offset some of the other costs that would come with it. One of, like she said, you know, we have guidelines outside of building codes for police stations and fire stations and things that have to do. So when we build evidence lockers, the walls have to be triple reinforced, so people can't break into
Right.
them unless we drop it below grade. Then we don't have to do that. There's a cost savings there. Might help pay for the elevator, might not. Those
well,
types
I
of
mean,
things.
if you build with ICF blocks, I mean, there you go. that's 6 inches or 8 inches of reinforced concrete right there.
So then I would say that the status though of the program in general is that we're at RFQ, request for qualifications for builders. So we're not at the point where we're
We're not
hashing
designing.
out any designs. We're really just trying to see who do we want to work with, who's got some of our best interests in mind. And
Yeah.
that's going to go out hopefully in another week or two, right? The RFQ.
It should go out this week.
This
I'm
week.
hoping.
And so over the next couple of sessions, we'll probably get a chance to start digging into some of the details. So from your perspective, Gary had given me a nice list of
I
lots
also
of
gave it
good.
Ed, but I haven't
Yeah.
gotten a response from him.
Okay, well, you've gotten a response from me,
I
so
got
that, that we
I
aren't
can't
talking about those
respond
things
to
yet.
every
Oh,
email.
well.
I get hundreds a day.
You can't.
That's all I'll do.
That's why he came here.
I tried to use that logic with my director at the tech center and it didn't work.
But if he shows up at a meeting once in a while, that's wonderful, because then you can
Oh, yeah. No, I'm
say,
fine. That's
"Did you
fine.
get my email?"
No, I'll talk and feel free to call and say, hey, or stop in. and-
Great.
But yeah, if I responded to emails, that's all I would do.
Yeah.
I'd never
No, I
leave
understand.
Oh,
service. So
no.
I can do a little better on some of those.
I might be a little oversensitive to it.
That may be, Gary.
But we look at that, and I know we're looking at a lot of the things that you had mentioned. I mean, a lot of the stuff was never off the table. I
Right.
mean, charging stations at the last site, it was off the table because it made it unfeasible to pull power up that far, but the Granite Hill
Has
site,
three-phase
if we
power.
have it, it has three-phase power
Yeah.
already. So it makes it
And
really
please,
easy.
let's make this net zero period, not net zero ready.
Now, Gary, we aren't at that stage yet.
I know.
And I'm going to tactfully try to represent
Yeah.
your.
Tactful. You can do it.
You think I can? I'm not, no, I'm not
Yeah,
tactful.
No, I would
Yeah, I'm
love,
holding back as much as
I
I
know,
can.
you're doing well.
I would love to make it net zero. So
Okay, good.
it's gonna be.
That was your promise there,
It's
Gary.
gonna be how close can we get fulfilling the needs with the budget that we have for the town?
And
Yeah.
please, don't waste our time doing lead buildings or anything like that.
No, we don't need to spend the money on lead. We
Oh,
need
my
to spend,
God.
no, I agree. We don't need to spend the money on lead. Nobody wants to do that, I don't think, in Enfield.
We're parked next to the.
But if we were net zero ready and could get donations for the solar on the roof, that's a reasonable way. Solar. Wherever. It can't get me on the ground. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Okay, thank you.
That was our update.
Well, the next topic is solar array.
There we go.
Okay,
Actually, Charlie did mention that there was chatter about putting a solar array on the building.
we better. I mean, I
On the
think,
roof of the building.
I think we better.
I would fight tooth and nail not to have it on the roof.
Well, then you and I are gonna
Won't
have a
fit on
good
the
fight.
site.
Huh?
So it won't fit.
I
on
know,
the
we're gonna
site.
fight then, because I think we need it. You and I, what's.
Solar awnings are all.
Oh,
the
no,
thing.
no, 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 no.
What, on the parking lot?
Way too expensive,
Oh.
way too expensive.
Why?
They're way too expensive. You can't just get them. Putting solar on a roof is the cheapest, best return on investment you could get. But we'll talk about that separately.
Show me how many companies in New England have put it on their roof, and then the first time the roof leaks, the solar panels are gone.
Oh, you can't, you gotta put on a new roof. It's gonna be a brand new roof.
No, I
There's
know,
no
but I
issue
mean,
there.
and I'm talking the new roof, and then, 5 years down the road, a leak develops.
It better not
They
leak
pull
in 5 years.
No,
Okay,
We'll get
moving back. to
Moving along.
the
Go ahead,
topic.
Joellen.
Thank you. Charlie sent out today, because he received the bill from Liberty today about whatever. It's still a little confusing, but I believe you all received it. And it's kind of interesting that it generated that much energy.
What was it? Can you tell me the total while I'm
Um,
typing here?
83.3 mega.
Watt. Okay, so generated 83.3 megawatt hours. There we go.
Correct.
Megawatt hours, 83,000 kilowatt hours. And it's a 60 kW array, so that's perfect. That's exactly what it should generate.
Yay.
Probably more, probably a little more than what it
That's
should
what
generate.
it seemed like.
Yeah. Probably the proposal was closer to, well, it'd be interesting to see the original proposal. But
Yeah.
I'm guessing it was at least 75 megawatt hours. And so if it did 83, I think that's maybe more than I might expect. So we
It
can
was,
be happy.
it was more than I expected.
Yay.
And it showed, the
Yeah.
shows like how it was so little in December and January because of the snow and ice.
The winter weather, yes.
What Charlie had given to me previously was information that, Phil Demir brought to the select board.
Oh, yes. About the taxes.
Eh, That, yes,
Have
that
you,
was a surprise.
have you heard this issue with the
Yes.
taxes? Okay,
I'm
and
working on
you are, okay. So we're hoping it shouldn't be a surprise. We're hoping it's something that the town can fix in some way. So what I
I'm
had.
sorry.
it. So we can fix it. It just may not be as easy as we.
Yeah, so, see if I can describe it and you can tell me if I've got it right. Basically, the solar array is owned by somebody other than the town.
Correct.
And so therefore, that property could be taxed by the town. And I don't know who decides as property tax, you know, and
It's the way the state law is
Yeah.
written.
the state law is written that if, I thought it was like, if anybody complains, then somebody has to pay taxes for it. And the owner is the one who has to pay.
No, we need to re-adopt the provision that we adopted in 2007 because they changed the law, but the way
Oh.
that they wrote it says, don't quote me on dates, but I think it was 2019. If you adopt it after 2019 or re-adopt it.
Oh.
Then if it's a net metered commercial type solar, then we can exempt it.
Oh, good.
But right now, we can't.
Wow.
We could do a pilot agreement
Yeah.
or something like that to do something a little different maybe in the interim, but
Yeah.
I did talk to Elisa
Good.
and this is something we can work through with the energy committee, but we should rewrite that warrant article for next town meeting to
Excellent.
re-adopt it.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, let me write that because we can maybe help remember to do that. So, we need to write a
Yeah.
adoption warrant article
Up to 2000.
of the 2006.
I don't have the
So I
RSA
think the
with me.
original one I was concerned it might have only, been good for residential.
No, but the definition really exempts what Phil's
Good.
doing, but they added it in as solar's changed over the years, they've added it in to be able to exempt that. But at this time, I don't think we could exempt it or make a change.
Okay, so if I got this right, the original warrant article was 2007. In 2019, it was the state law
Yeah,
was
Don't
changed.
quote the date
Okay.
in there.
Okay, at some point.
I can get you the RSA. At some point, it was changed and it needs to be readopted to be able to adopt the new definition.
And again, that wouldn't be able to be done until next town meeting,
The
which
Town, yeah,
means
has
this year.
And next year, they'll work with Phil on that. Like so a pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes. And so if the town agrees to a payment in lieu of taxes, it could be a smaller amount, or it could be something reasonable.
Yeah, we'll have to look at it. There's some caveats with
It
that
should have
that we
been-
need to,
Yeah,
we'll have to offer an agreement similar to that to any other person for multiple reasons, not just solar all the time. And so we got to be careful
Yeah,
as we wait
yeah.
through that. It may be something we just worked with Bill to get through this year
Yep.
and then we adopt
adopt
this
it.
next year and
Yep.
exempt him.
What's not clear to me is you used the phrase that it's like property taxes, but it's on our town property.
The actual solar panels can be taxed as property,
'Cause they're
not just
personal.
land.
They're not
Okay.
municipal.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I know, I was surprised, actually, that
And they're-
Norwich Technologies didn't put in a pilot in their agreement with the town. I didn't understand that. Why didn't they do that?
I
Seems
was
weird.
just saying, solar's usually taxed based on generation.
Hmm.
So it's not the value of the solar panels, it's based on how much power they
Yeah,
generate.
I've seen both. I think Canaan, same guy, I don't know if Phil told you, but his array that he put in Canaan, hoping to avoid the problems we were having in Enfield, letting him do it on his private property. He was taxed for the value that it was, now maybe he's changed this, but the original
Yeah, they
value.
did
of the
change
whole-
that.
Okay, so now
It
it's.
started that
unproductive,
way and
yeah.
it was really expensive.
Yes, really expensive. Yeah, so Phil might be fine with it paying it for this year or something, but not for
Yeah,
20
I'll
years.
work with him. I'm still gathering some information, but
Thank you for working with him. He's a great guy and we all want solar to be a positive thing in Enfield.
It was, apparently still made this document, and I was like, I kept going back and forth with Charlie, and as you know, Charlie and I have different ways of looking at life. You're laughing. So we kept almost butting heads of like, but I think I finally have clarity now. It was that tax thing, I was like, what are you talking about? And then I had a conversation with him, as I said earlier, that was one. Okay, the other, and this was part of why I called Liberty today, because I'm like, the assumption on this was that the, rate will go up to 30 cents per kilowatt
For
hour.
G2,
Or,
the G2 rate,
that's what it's not clear.
yeah, that sounds really high. But maybe that's a demand charge too, because G2, I think, has a demand charge as well as a kilowatt hour usage charge.
I love the other stuff, because I'm like, what?
So if you want me to try to look into one of those things, just send me an email about what you want. Like, we want to know what the
I mean,
rates
I
are.
have the most current bill.
That's good. That's usually enough for me to figure it out if you want
Okay.
to send me that.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's just, it was the assumptions that were made that I just have kind of questioned. Okay, anything else on solar array? Charlie's no longer part of this committee. When I spoke with him today, he said, well, I feel like that's my last report.
Aw.
But I told him, because he called earlier today, saying, I wasn't sure if there was a meeting. When I spoke with him, I said, well, I didn't send you an announcement because you're no part of it.
Oh.
I'll suck you back.
Yeah, I think you should send him announcements because maybe he'll come over.
But he had another commitment tonight anyway. He wasn't gonna be able to make it. Okay, I can do that.
So Charlie's been instrumental for monitoring the data, et cetera. So will we keep having that type of information?
He did say he would keep on doing that.
Okay,
I think because he likes it.
Yes.
So it's like,
You like sharing the
Go
information
for
with
it.
me as
that's
well.
what he told me. He'd
Yeah.
keep working on that and he'd keep working on the buildings and doing stuff. He
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be part of the committee.
That's why we should keep him on the, committee minutes and stuff or whatever, and
so
meeting
he knows.
announcements. And so he can show up if he wants and give us an update.
Okay,
And just one last question.
Yeah.
So because we almost have 1 year of data from.
we do have it.
Full year.
Wasn't it September? No.
No, it
Okay.
was June 14th.
Okay, so we have a year. So is that providing a good case for us to actually make a case for the new buildings? Having solar on them, on the roof?
It gives us more data.
Yeah, so that's
We're
part of it.
good.
Oil prices certainly are
Well-
validating that data.
Yeah, no, I think, when
It
we're
was,
ready,
it was a topic of conversation of doing it when I started in January.
yeah.
So it's not something that we have to fight to do. We're gonna try to do it if we can do it. So-
Yeah, and my goal at pushing that in the committee is to, and I actually wrote it down, we didn't talk about it this time, but make sure that whoever we work with will be estimating the energy usage of the building as part of, what they deliver to us. And then it's easy for, well, for me, but for any solar company to provide how much energy could be produced on that roof as soon as we have a roof to look at, or a plan of a roof. And so that it will be easy to kind of match that up and say, and also say, this is how much we save. So with the rates, known rates today and projected rates over 20 years, this is how much we would save. So if we can make it a wash, it's something that, or better than a wash, then it's something that people would, it'd be hard to say no to. So that's the idea, is financially. it should
And
work.
we want to get as much on there as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to
Assuming it's
just,
gonna be the roof.
we don't
No, I
want to
mean-
just offset the public
It would
safety
be great to
building
do
with
as
that.
much as we
right.
could, yeah.
I'd like to net meter for Whitney Hall because we're not gonna have solar panels on that roof.
Yeah, that roof is
So-
a tough roof, and it's still slate, right? It's always gonna be slate.
I mean,
No, I don't know that it'll be slate when we're done, but it's still
Yeah.
tough and
Yeah.
it's not
All
historically
angles.
accurate and all that good stuff.
all the public safety buildings that I've seen on the internet, on YouTube, whatever, 200 to 300 kilowatts seems.
Those are big, oh, that it's needed. Yeah, I think
That,
it'll
that
be,
seems, that seems to be what they have.
yeah, I think those are big buildings.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I mean, it's a big building, or it's maybe they got electric cars that they have to
Yeah.
charge.
Yep.
So that raises the question, it seems to me that, there was some restriction in Enfield about solar arrays, about community ones, that's why Phil went elsewhere.
Yeah, so
is
that was
Something we could,
changed, yeah, we probably should be looking at, especially this is a good time of year, to be looking at some of our zoning and stuff to see if we're unfriendly to certain ones, but specifically, Phil was trying to put a large ground mount array on a residential zone. That's very different, and there's
Okay.
no restrictions in Enfield, I believe, for any size roof. There shouldn't be any restrictions for putting solar on any
Just
size.
want to remind everybody, it's 6:45 now, and we've only made the first 3 bullets.
thank you. So
Good job,
the-
Gary.
The question, what you just said is that's in, restriction is in residential.
That's in residential, not in any.
So there's still opportunities for, but it
Yeah.
has to have 3 phase.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a big array somewhere in Enfield, yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm still looking at this site. This is a good site. We have 3-phase power here, right? Someday we'll move some big chunks of dirt and put solar arrays.
They can make a deal on my property.
Okay.
I got a 95% say.
Okay, yeah, no, it's coming. These things are more and more possible.
Do I have a dog on my,
Yeah, he just came over and licked me too.
it was just like, surprise, sorry. Okay, master planning, I don't know, did speak to Dave, the, Ukraine Day and said, there wasn't anything on your website. What's going on? You asked for all this information from the community, but, give us some feedback, at least post it. So I don't know where they are with that.
So I have a question. I don't know if it's under master planning or actually goes back to the municipal building. What's the story on Shed Street? What's the status of that?
We're finishing up phase 2 environmental testing. There's still some environmental work that has to happen, but I am gonna be working with Rob and we're gonna start meeting with some investors and see what may be able to happen there.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
What
For
kind of things? Yeah, what kind of Shed Street?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the site of the original DPW, and of course, 20 years ago, we said, hey, we'll sell this and it'll pay for this building. That didn't happen.
No, and we
And then
won't
we
get
said the
much,
same thing for this building, the new building.
I don't think we'll get much money out of that.
Yeah, yeah.
The value of town land like that's not in the sale price. It's in getting something
Future revenue.
well built there
Yeah.
that'll pay taxes.
Property taxes.
Right.
So, Shed Street, but what's the environmental testing? Did we dump a lot of crap there?
It was a DPW site.
And that's what we do. We dump a
So-
lot
They
of
should
crap.
drain the
into
oil
people's-
in the ground probably.
I think
Do we
most
do
of
that
it's
here?
cleaned up, but there's a few things to clean up and there's still some testing that they're having trouble locating certain areas that we need to test. So
What about the neighbors? How they feel about it? It's just what it is, just what it is.
There aren't a lot of neighbors there, but there are
On
neighbors.
both sides, right? Real people. I don't know, am I in the right place? Shed Street, Union Street? Okay. So it's undergoing environmental testing.
Okay. And master planning is still in the works. Apparently they have a draft that's coming.
yeah, they're completing, our consultant's completing the final draft. That's went through the phases and now she's completing the final draft for release, which should be coming up next month or so.
Good. Okay. Rita. Okay, new business. You asked that EVs be put on the agenda, so
I did, well, EVs and specifically charging points.
Yes.
And we need to get on board and start doing this. Make a commitment as a town to do it.
So what would,
Can we watch a video?
You have a video to show
No,
us?
no. Can you get it on YouTube and?
I don't know. Is, I don't
Already
know.
Teams,
I think you have to share. Let's see if we can do this real quick here. We're gonna share something, not that, but something. Okay, what is it?
You can go to YouTube and look up. Now you know.
Now you know, huh?
Yeah.
Then do look up something else, this
That
thing,
one right there.
Tesla feature half price.
Skip.
$22?
20, I think it's 24.45.
Ah,
yeah, that,
Doesn't have a cage in the back. I understand that.
that's okay, it's coming. These things are coming. No, we talked about it.
I was gonna say, and
It ain't done yet.
our cruisers
Well-
have to.
Is it, what, can you give us the
No,
punchline?
it's like 30 seconds more.
Thanks. Yeah, no, that's good. And we actually talked
We
about it.
talked
at the-
about it today.
Yeah,
Well, I
it's
mean,
funny
it's
that you
like,
mentioned
you
it.
can't tell me, A, if you can't find it, somebody will build
That's true.
it. And you can't, I mean, one of the police departments, I think it's in Washington State. I think they're the only one that, they're the only police department that has, basically had negative comments on the Tesla conversion. And it's because Washington State is mandating that they do it. And they're dragging their feet at every little corner, much like.
And don't you think that would happen here too? Which is to say, I think it's great for us to suggest a commitment, to suggest various things, but mandating,
No, I
like
know.
getting to that point is what makes people dig their heels in. And, honestly, I think Chief Holland was very excited about the possibility. I think he's ready. He said his next car is good.
Good.
So I don't think we have
His
to.
next car, not the next cruiser, because the cruisers have to be able to transport a prisoner and the cages can't go in.
So as soon as they have cages,
Have
flip a
to
cage.
have-
Yeah, I mean, they can make cages for them. I
They-
mean,
Well,
they already make a divider.
Tesla said they couldn't.
so let's not argue
So
about it
we
here.
don't need to argue, because it has to be a certified.
right,
We
But
can't go
the
have
admin-
somebody
Well, the last time I talked to Chief Holland, he said, well, they can't bolt at the floor because it's like, shit, the battery's there.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
let's not worry about
Yeah,
that, because
I know.
there's definitely gonna be an EV, a whole bunch.
Well, and that
of
goes
police
back to
cruisers are
all the
perfect.
CJIS stuff,
Yeah.
that they have to be certified. We can't go to some welder to build a
Right.
cage to put in
Right.
there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
gotta be a
Well,
certified.
I had asked Roy
It's
about that,
coming.
and I never got a response.
Yeah.
It's the, what the specs were.
It's coming, but on the
So,
other,
and that's what he said. A lot of stations and a lot of police departments have them.
Yeah.
And they're either
Admin.
departments that have a transport vehicle that come pick up your
Right.
prisoners, or they're admin cars.
admin cars.
And so
we-
that's what he
we'll
said.
get
The
admin
next,
cars. Yeah.
the next time he buys a cruiser, because even when he's on duty, he doesn't use his unmarked cruiser to patrol. That patrol vehicles will be patrol vehicles, and when we get an admin car, it'll be an electric.
So I know they do make a divider. I've seen a divider. Yeah, they don't have the actual
Okay.
box. But anyway, that's still, we can what's holding us up as a town? Throwing like 4 charging ports right out there.
Okay, so EV chargers, let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
It's
So,
like-
yes.
It's the chicken or the egg.
Yeah, so it's, I think, again, it's relatively easy to put them into the new building concept. We've
Yes.
got 2 places that are going to have, vehicles for police cars that should have charging stations right in them, like that's indoors. But we were also talking about, let's make sure we've got all the conduits and everything ready to put charging stations outdoors for
Yes.
both, visitors and for other vehicles that we would
If I,
charge
if I
outdoors.
drive by the current police station, I mean, there's always a cruiser parked out front, or the state cop is parked out front or out back, and it's like, you know, I know it's gonna take a little bit to convince the state police, but it's like, it's not like they're driving these things 8 hours a day without stopping somewhere.
Okay,
So, anyway, and plus getting the DPW and any other town vehicles that could be.
So I would like to also throw in the EV chargers at the library as part of its renovation, because again, once
Yes.
you're tearing anything up,
Yes.
Yeah.
you've got an opportunity
I
to
think the
throw in some
library would
conduit.
be good, and
It's a
I
great
would
place.
really
And conduit's cheap.
promote looking here at places throughout the downtown that we can put them, or partner with businesses to put them.
Yeah.
It's actually better to partner with the business to put them, because then you're drawing
that's right.
public to the businesses that.
Yeah.
You know, putting them here would only be for town cars. Nobody's gonna come park
Right.
here to charge
Yeah.
their
No,
car.
they wouldn't want to do that.
But
And it would be, and you wouldn't even have to buy a fancy charging station. I mean, it could be.
Yeah. Level
You could have a
2,
padlock on it, but rather than having a digital, you know, card reader and everything else. But anyway,
Okay,
I just think we need to make the move.
yeah, but we
Yes.
don't want to have one.
What, just so you can charge?
no, and I wouldn't want it for just town vehicles. I would much rather
Yeah.
have the fancy card
Well,
reader where
Good.
the public could come park and
Yeah.
charge their car and visit our downtown.
so those fancy ones, just so everybody knows, I just installed one, Revision Energy just installed one, I just made sure it was working at Kendall. And it was $11,000 for 2, but that's what makes them fancy, is they can use to charge,
Right.
you know. It's not your same one you put in, like in the inside of the building where only the police are gonna use, it's gonna be their electricity. That's a $2,000-3,000 one.
Yeah.
But once you wanna charge and have public use it, jumps up to that kind of price.
What makes them fancy?
They have to have cellular connection and a merchant account that lets you charge. It's like you're being a business at that point, because you want people to use their business card, their cards to, and then that money has to go back to whoever is providing electricity.
Or you could be like common man, just have free charging. up
You
for
could,
the
but you know, that's gonna end really soon, as everybody has
Yeah,
electric vehicles.
Okay, so the next thing that was under, electric vehicles was this grant possibility from electric buses.
Yeah,
And can you sense that out to people?
yep, including Ed, and you know that somebody's
there any-
looking at that, right? Is that what you
Yeah,
responded?
the school district was
He's
working
looking
on
at
that.
that.
They have a person in the school district that's in charge of that.
Oh, well, I got one more thing, electric vehicles.
Well, let's finish.
Is it a
this
bus?
Conversation first.
Yeah, bus.
So because I sent it to, Hope.
Oh,
who
good.
is on the
Okay.
budget committee of the school board.
Oh, good.
Because I figured she would, I know she has worked with us, she's in Canaan. But I'm sorry, what you said is that there is somebody working on it.
Yeah, I reached out to the superintendent of schools, and she looped me in with an email with somebody else in the district who's in charge of working on electric buses.
Cool,
So,
that would be fun.
so I let them know that if there was anything that the town or the energy committee could do to help, that we would be more than willing.
Great, okay. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, so the other thing was, we're looking for a new ambulance, I heard.
I don't know.
Well, that's what I heard. And if we are, they're making an electric ambulance in Canada.
I saw a cool picture of one. Did
Oh
you
my
show it
God.
to me? Yeah, you sent me
Yes.
the link. Very
Oh,
cool
okay.
link.
Well, did I
I'm
send you
sure
the
it's
video?
like $100 billion. And that's an engineer speaking, yes.
Well, I mean, I didn't see a price on it, but it's
No, I'm
like-
sure.
I think the body, the chassis is from Lion, and they're the ones that are making all the chassis for the electric buses. And they're really getting a lot of money for the school buses. But anyway, if the ambulance is designed
It's
by
very cool.
EMTs.
Yeah.
and it's really freaking nice.
Good.
So I think we should really look into it and consider it. Because then you don't have to, then you don't have the
Okay,
diesel
thank you.
exhaust in the building.
Lots of good stuff.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay, I will make a note that Gary
Like,
said.
remember what the name is, Demers or something like that.
So, community education. As you all know, Liberty Utility is the main provider of electricity in our area. And their rates were just approved on Friday to go to double. So I had contacted Anna at Vital Communities. She's in charge of energy. Sarah Brock, I think you know, she's out on maternity leave with her second child.
I didn't know that. Okay.
She was due this week.
Oh, no
Um,
wonder I haven't heard from her in so long.
right. So Anna's the one, and so we had a conversation this week to talk about what can be done, what can we do? And I was really excited that Clean Energy New Hampshire put on this button-up workshop last week, so I sent that out on anyway, through the listserv. And it was attended, but it wasn't very well attended. I was hoping that there would be more. The thing is, we need to do something. And the question is, what can we do? And one thing that I know we can do, there's a lot of information that's available about phantom load and stuff. I mean, so I'm thinking possibly on the newsletter, the town newsletter, that we can put some hints and suggestions there. We can also put something in on the listserv occasionally, but I'm thinking about a handout, but that's the way I think. Just handouts, I'm not even sure. Maybe the library.
I think Liberty sends out those to all of their customers, like savings things, and
Yeah.
maybe we just grab some ideas.
Yeah.
And like you said, I like putting them on our listserv, putting them on our town newsletter in the energy section, just to, in case somebody hadn't thought of it.
Well, because every once in a while, when you look through, you go, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
You know,
haven't been
there's
doing that.
always something
Well,
that-
we're in the summer season, so lots. People are going to be using air conditioning. And so it might be good just to remind them that air conditioning is increases your bill by this much, or whatever. Maybe we can put in some numbers. And so if you can raise the temperature a little higher, use a little less air conditioning, you're going to save significantly, and it's going to be important this year. Now, on the other hand, if they don't have air conditioners and we have a super hot day, do we in Enfield even have sort of a place that we can invite people to?
Like the cooling area.
Cooling, yeah, should we think about
I
that?
think we used the community building.
It was
Sorry,
very
use the
cool in
what?
there. Community
Community
building.
building, I know it's our warming shelter, I think we use it for cooling. as
So
well.
maybe we should put
The
something.
library, when it's
The
open,
library?
people can go there.
Yep.
I would say the town office, I don't know that it's well publicized, but if someone comes in that's
Yeah,
overheating and they need a place, then.
They can stay
we
there,
put
as
them in
long
the
as it's
meeting
open.
room or something, as long as
Right.
It's open.
so the hard part is as long as it's open. So I think what we could do as a town is if we know this heat wave is coming and it's a certain day or 2 days or something, then we can make sure certain buildings are open. I like the community building. Do we have to have somebody there? If we're
Yeah,
able?
we'll have to have somebody
Yeah.
there.
So maybe that's something that.
I mean, if it gets really bad, we'll
We'll do
look at
something.
opening
Yeah.
it, but
So I think our newsletter
Yeah.
can only talk about the efficiencies.
overnight, I don't know of anywhere that we would
Right,
have.
yes.
Okay, so the one thing is short-term kind of mitigating the effects, and so I heard like campaigning on savings, so information, education, campaigning on savings. On a little bit longer strategic term, I have an expectation that community power will be a structure that will allow to generate some savings, but that's gonna take longer. We're
Right.
talking about a couple of years.
Mhm.
The other piece that came back to mind is like well, when the energy committee proposed the carbon cashback, like as a strategy where basically there's a fee that is applied to, yeah, like whoever emits carbon in the atmosphere, then a fund is created and the money goes back to the people. It's like dividends fund, the same way that the royalties were functioning for Alaska, the oil royalties. And so I know it's super long term, but it's one of those mechanisms that bring back money.
Right. My mind just went to, we could start enforcing the idling thing and charge people. Hey.
And put those funds back into individual
Yes.
pockets. Idling fees, yeah, that'll go over well.
But I'm sorry, it just delighted me to think about.
What was the name of that program, Marta?
I think it was called carbon cashback.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that? It was kind of at the federal level, but the states could play a role in that. So it's big scale, longer term, but it's a way to bring money back into the pockets of people.
Right, it's based on Citizens Climate Lobby's model of a carbon fee and dividend. So that there's a fee on carbon use and then there's a dividend that goes back to households. It
Yeah.
just seems like this is a tricky time to try to add.
It's beyond the scope of
I
our
know.
town work, so I
Yes.
can.
Yeah.
As part of the education, sort of going on what Mara's saying, it's like, whenever fuel prices spike, you hear about our cars, check your tire pressure, which nobody checks their tire pressure because it's built into the computer. And, we're trying to do all these things to save energy, and it's like, how do we change the education so that we incentivize it for people building houses or buildings in Enfield to build them to a much higher code so that down the road, we don't have to do this anymore.
Well, that's a question that I'm wondering about. I went to this workshop last week and there was chatter about building codes have changed and that not every community is using the same standard.
Well, New Hampshire's building code is off. When they allow 7 air changes per hour in a house, that makes it meet code. That's absolutely nuts.
Okay, but
But I mean, again, how do we as a town incentivize anybody that's building a new house in Enfield to go to the next level? Don't just build it to code. Any ideas?
No, and then most of those types of ideas to incentivize would have to be approved by the legislature. We're not allowed in New Hampshire just to make up our own rules and enact them.
So much for Elizabeth Don.
Yeah, no, it's not a liberty. If the state says it, then you can do it, but I was gonna say the same thing about the carbon cashback. That would have to be adopted by the state before we would able to enact anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we as a town, we can't incentivize it with the tax.
We have to have approval to give a tax incentive.
I mean, if Kim's gonna build a house tomorrow, and we say, hey, you're gonna make it net zero.
Well, so that
You
would
get-
have
you
to
get
be
10%
like an
off the
RSA,
next 5 years.
would that have
No,
to
it
be
has-
like the, what's that one that I used? If you renovate on Main Street, you can get your property taxes held at
That's a 79E.
79E. So, I mean, that's a state level thing. And
It's
then
an
the
R-
town
yeah,
decides
it's
to adopt
RSA
it.
79E, so the state approves that you can give this tax exemption,
Right.
and then we have to adopt it to give it.
To be able to give it. So we're a couple steps away from that. So go,
What you could do is encourage and educate people the long-term cost
I mean,
savings of doing.
I was impressed with Jim Kelleher. With his proposal for the apartments, where that stands today. At least at the lower rate.
I know I'm
have
gonna
no
have to
idea
get
who
going.
Jim Kelleher is, and I'm not sure where we are with this.
He's proposed building some apartments on Main
right
Street.
across the street from me,
Okay. Right.
from me.
Oh,
Yes,
that's right.
yes, right across
I
the
knew
street
the
from me.
name was a little familiar.
Yes.
Okay, so again, getting back to community education, electricity. So what we're thinking is just like tips, suggestions. when I spoke with Anna, she was talking about, she was gonna be meeting with Listen and also, trying to get together resources, on like the Tri-County, organization that provides support for weatherization. I wondered about our putting on, the window dressers workshop, because that's something that we could do.
Yeah, probably best going into the fall, not the summer, right? But this would be a good time to plan it.
Yeah. planning.
Yeah.
Um,
I like those windows,
I do
insulating
too. I mean,
windows.
I know I could use them.
Yes,
I
yeah.
put in,
Why don't we work on that? It's a good project for September or October even.
yeah,
And people, we would just have to get, if we start the blur, if we decide we want to do that and get people to sign up ahead of time, which doesn't have to be until, September, but in terms of get materials, have a location, maybe the community building or something where we have somebody who sort of shows us all how to do it. We all bring our own dimensions, our own window, and we're making window inserts for our own windows.
I know someone who's an expert in all of this.
Cover,
yeah.
from cover.
Well, cover,
Well,
no, a person fan,
Okay.
but
Cool.
covers.
Yeah, no, I mean, we just need one expert. We don't need to necessarily, I mean,
Right,
cover
then-
would be good.
And I do have contact information for the person who's in charge of window dressers. So I can contact her and find out more specifics. But I think that would be
It's a good
a
project.
tangible thing that we could do.
Yeah.
Um,
So the name of the person is Chris,
How do you spell his last name?
I think it's EVD.
Is he in Enfield or? Nearby.
No, he's on the wrong side, I can't remember his that word.
Okay, well, we don't have to do it all now, although this is June, so we probably would want to plan out like all the things that it would take to
Yeah.
get there.
I'll give an email to that person and see if we can just start the ball rolling on it. Which means that I need support of other people.
Yes, we do need more
There's
people.
always new members.
Yeah, where are all these new members?
Here we are. Okay, so that feels good to me. Does anybody have any other suggestions, comments about weatherization or electricity that we can do?
How about, so you want to, this is already the very end of June. Is it too late for the next newsletter, town newsletter?
Well, Elisa's out of town, so
Do you know when she's doing the next one?
The newsletter stuff needs to be to her by the 29th.
That's
Just-
tomorrow.
yeah.
Okay,
but she's not,
She's gonna release the newsletter.
anyway,
okay, she's gonna, okay. So we could, the 29th tomorrow, right?
yeah. I would say if you can find one of those Liberty things and grab a few bills, like tips.
Okay,
Like tips, yeah, tips, right. Or you could go online and get tips, like what are summertime tips for saving electricity? I bet that's a good Google.
okay. All right, I'll do that.
Just,
Copy and paste.
Yes, exactly. Try to make it as easy as possible.
clarifying question,
Yes.
just, the teenage, is it a Bucknut campaign or a weatherized something?
I'm not sure what your question is. I didn't hear all of what you said.
I'm sorry, like, you mentioned that there was a campaign, an education campaign on the Bucknut Hot.
Oh, the button up workshop.
But no, it was just a one-day,
Oh, it's a one-day workshop.
So already
right,
been
and it
passed.
was, we heard, it was last week.
Okay.
And we paired up with, Hanover and I think Plainfield and did that a couple of times last year. But that's something that could be done.
Yeah, I was just thinking about our experience with weatherized, or is that too big for us?
It's too big for us right now, but I think the, button up is something that people can get the concept and then it steers them to New Hampshire Saves, which apparently, Liberty is not open yet.
They don't have any money anyway. I don't know how they're gonna do it.
It doesn't do.
So the NH Saves funds are available. Some of the utilities have opened up and are receiving applicants, but I think there's gonna be an incredible wait list.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what I heard, is that if you didn't already get signed up for those rebates in Liberty territory, they're probably not gonna be there. Eversource still has money, but
And even when I tried to submit for a rebate last November, they wouldn't let me. They weren't accepting it.
it'd be interesting to try again, like every once in a while and see if they will accept
But I
it.
don't think it's possible because it was purchased last year.
Oh.
So.
All right,
Okay.
I make a motion to adjourn
One of the things.
because I'm done and I have to get out of here.
I know.
I mean, you only made it since 3:30.
No, I wasn't here. It was at community.
So last week, there was an invite to, Brown University was doing this, get-together workshop and invited like 300 people within the state. Fewer than 20 people showed up, which was kind of interesting, and that's why I wasn't at the CPC NH.
Oh.
And it was all about climate, and they're doing research on New England states, and they were doing this for New Hampshire to see what the obstacles are to getting stuff happening.
Huh.
And they're gonna do an online thing in November. I can get the date, send that out too. But it was worthwhile.
Huh.
Don Priest was there, the consumer advocate. Judy Cola from Hanover. It was productive.
Now can I make a motion to adjourn?
Anybody else have anything else to add?
Yes,
Go ahead.
under the ambulance comment, it's a Demers EFX.
Okay, I'll put it in there.
Well, I'll second the motion.
There was only what they, I mean, is there anything actionable around more people? Or is that for the next meeting?
Always be thinking.
We talked about approaching people.
Yeah, I did. I sent my email out to a couple people and neither of them responded. I was sad. I don't want to hound them. No, I tried. Anybody else? How about everybody think of somebody to send an email out and personally invite them if they want to be part of the energy committee? That's your job, Gary.
I'm recruiting, well, I'm gonna offer, we're closed, right?
Well, we didn't really.
No, we didn't, but look, I did.
So, okay, you made the motion, you seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay.
Okay.
unanimous.
I just have one thing for you,
We didn't, let her close the meeting.
You're really hard one. Okay, so by unanimous, the meeting's ended. It is now 7:18.
I think I put 16, but I think.
Fine,
Yeah.
good, close enough.
I work next to the Irving Center at Dartmouth, and a while back, I had emailed one of the guys over there, he's basically a resident expert on them